All right, we're on our way to the last gravel race of the season in Lowell, and it's raining. But we're at a local Mexican place near where we live, and they have the best burritos. It's perfect. It's always perfect. We made it to the Airbnb. It's 8:30. We're gonna get a little bit of Netflix in, and then we're gonna go to sleep. So the race director sent an email saying that the roads are wet, but they are pretty much otherwise not an issue. I do have slick tires on, or tires that have a slick spot in the middle, so I'm a little bit concerned about traction at high speeds on wet roads. So it looks like I feel pretty good for the day. My heart rate was up really high right away on the pre-ride, but my legs felt good. So I think I can work through the cardio part and just use the legs.
Enjoy your race, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the race. Please be safe out there. Please be very safe. It's slippery AF. Don't hurt yourself.
This is the last gravel race in the Michigan Gravel Race Series for the year. It's also going to be my last race of my season. So I wanted to start further forward in the staging area. You see it come through. I'm definitely further forward than halfway, but I could be more at the front if I wanted to really be competitive. I didn't expect the course to be this wet, so I wasn't terribly concerned about my position for starting. I was more concerned about just staying upright. I'm taking corners pretty slow because I don't know if my tires can handle a whole lot of force when turning. We're already jacked up to 30 miles an hour, which is nice because it spreads out the group, but it also makes it difficult for me to catch the front of the race. You can see big gaps opening up. We hit this tiny little pavement climb, which allows me to gather my thoughts a little bit. The start of a race is always so panicked, especially when they count down from 10. It's like every time they say 10, 9, 8, my heart rate goes up a couple beats per number. Another corner where I'm coming in just not pedaling, just concerned about not sliding out. I don't want to be that guy. And here we get a look at what we're going to deal with for the rest of the race. This standing water, sandy, muddy slop, which I cannot get my front end planted in. This hill I was warned about from some other riders before the race. They said this is probably the most difficult hill of the day, which fills me with excitement because I love climbing. Just get out of the saddle, just put down power, and just enjoy it. Just go hard. You don't have to worry about anything technical because you're only doing 5 miles an hour. You don't have to worry about high speeds because if I fall down at this pace, I most likely won't be injured, but crazy things happen. So I just go. I just start riding. I want to get past these two riders and I really want to shoot up the middle, but I don't want them to start swaying from trying to pedal and bump into me or into one another. So I give them a second and then I shoot through that gap. And this really fills me up with a little bit of confidence. I'm feeling better. I'm passing people that were in front of me. This is what I needed. I needed to get my mind right before the rest of the race. We're only a couple miles in. Things settled out a bit after that hill. We had sort of stretched out. There's really no big groups just yet. There's a tiny group here that had followed me onto this gentleman's wheel in the blue and black kit. And I'm doing about 300 watts in his draft. We are up a little bit of an incline here, but so he's working pretty hard. I don't expect him to do this very long, so I'm just waiting for him to turn around and see that I'm there and flick me through. There he goes. He looks, sees we're behind him. He doesn't want to do all this work on his own. And he's going to give me the elbow to come through, which I'm totally fine with doing. I feel great. I've got a pretty low heart rate right now relative to my max, which is about 198. More than happy to pull through. I don't jump up on the power too hard. I want to just bring it up so that we were at the same pace we were at previously. That group had slowed down a bit, and these fat bike riders had actually caught up with us, and it's actually the Cancer Be Damned crew with Jason Potsander. They're trying to get him on the podium, the #1 spot for the MGRS series, the Fat Bike series. If I'm not mistaken, I think they did that. So congrats to Jason. These guys were doing a ton of work all day. They had fat tires, obviously, and that allowed them to get across some of the slippery stuff pretty comfortably, or at least I assume it was. They were able to ride off the side of the road over these bumps without any major issues, whereas some of the people on gravel bikes like myself, I watched them hit some of these holes filled with water, and it almost kicks them right off of their bike. But that's mostly the reason why I'm sitting back here a good 10-15 feet off of people, because I want to see these holes. Also, mud was getting up into my eyes, making it really difficult to see, so back here I didn't get as much of that spray from the tires in front of me. So I'm keeping contact. I'm not right on the wheels, I'm not getting that draft, but this isn't a pace that I can't keep up with on my own, so I'm just hanging out back here. Particularly a little hard effort there. I figure that this is early in the race. The first 10 miles of a race, you're probably not going to see anyone fall out of a group if they're in one at this point. But after 10 miles, you're going to start to see some fatigue set in, and these people should start to drop a little bit. Maybe I can get some spots that way. That was kind of my game plan. You can see here, this road was actually into a headwind, and we're all struggling. This one was particularly soul-sucking. It was muddy. It was hard to find a good line. It just felt like you were never in the right spot while you were going. So really putting out some power, just stayed next to the group. They're all moving along quite well. But I am seeing some riders fade a little bit, and I don't want to get stuck behind someone who's fading and imagine that they're actually part of the group and then just get dropped entirely. So I am trying to keep some closeness here. There were a lot of small, short hills which kind of tested the elastic of the group. We would catch up, spread out, catch up, spread out. And right here, at this turn, I'm realizing that I am losing my brakes at a rapid pace. They've been making noise the whole day, grinding and crunching, but I'm actually starting to lose use of them. They're getting closer and closer to actually touching my bars as I squeeze them. So I'm giving everyone even more room. Because if they were to have a crash or deviate lines, I have no way to slow myself down at all. So on this big downhill, I'm just coasting. I need to give them room in case something happens. Because even at this distance, if I were to try to stop, I couldn't stop by the time I got to the rider in front of me. And that is a really uncomfortable feeling. So what I would do is, at the bottom of these climbs, I would put in an effort, catch back up to my 10-15 feet away distance, and then sit there again. The group really did seem to slow up on climbs as well, so at the bottom of the hill, I was usually able to catch up pretty easily. This rider in front of us here in the blue and black kit, we actually kind of had the same idea, but just approached it a little bit differently. We always stayed just off the back, and in fact, he and I had actually ridden at the Calpi Classic together and done something very similar. He'd actually beat me out of that group. So I realized that during this race and mentioned it to him. We had talked about that a little bit. He also gave me some heads up about some of the features coming up in the course, including a big downhill into a covered bridge, which was very helpful. But you can start to see here, I've caught the group and I'm actually moving up into it a little bit because some riders are starting to fade. These repetitive punchy climbs are getting a little bit more difficult to do over and over. Another example, this is a paved climb even, and we're really slowing down. I'm only at 50 RPMs because I'm just letting the group move in front of me before I actually put down any power. So now I'm starting to watch and make sure that there aren't people getting away from us ahead. And if I'm stuck behind too many people, there could be a group of 4 or 5 that might get away. And this was the most sketchy part of the course. This is a pretty steep downhill. I have my brakes engaged currently, trying to slow down. And you can see that I'm picking up pace. And I'm not entirely sure what to do here. My heart rate is at 166 beats per minute, so I'm actually recovering a bit. But I'm panicking inside because I don't know what's coming next, how big this hill is. But but I can't stop. So even right here, fully engaged brakes, not stopping. There's some major bumps there. The GoPro does a fantastic job of smoothing that out. So then we have an officer, I think that he's helping us get through this bridge, which is awesome. But as I come into this bridge, unable to stop, I'm still doing 19 miles an hour, and there's people in here. There had been a crash, and they were just there. So fortunately, I was in the middle of the bridge and didn't run into them because, again, no way to stop. Zero chance of stopping. So that was, I feel lucky. All right, got through the bridge, got things sorted out, working our way back up to the group. I make contact, and we're back. The group's smaller because there were some people that had some mechanicals. There was the people in the covered bridge, which could have been from this group as well. So the group's smaller. The fat bike riders are still here. They're still doing a great job. In fact, they're closing down gaps. Frequently, if we get up these hills, there'd be some room. They'd close that down. So I was pretty comfortable just hanging out back here still. It's really started to mist. I guess you could call it rain also. So the conditions are not getting any better. They're actually getting a little bit worse. And here I'm seeing that there is a group that is spreading out a bit. They're spreading out up the road, and the fat bike riders are not closing that down, which is totally fine. I'm gonna jump across that and get up to that group ahead. This is gonna make sure that I can have a little bit of an easier time at the end of the race, maybe making up a couple more spots in the sprint. So there's a couple more riders, we're gonna get past them. There's a group just in the distance there through the muddy lens, and that's who I wanna get to. We make contact, and this is the group that we're going to finish the day with, but there was some confusion where the course went. I had it on my Garmin, so I was fine, but the other riders were taking turns where they shouldn't at different points and then getting back on course. I was fine because I'm in the back and I'm just watching this happen. I know where I'm going. But they went straight and didn't turn left onto this road, and when I saw that, it was a good opportunity for me to just go. So I did. I just started putting down power up this hill. The alternative for me is that I waited for them and had to go back to the back of the group again because I don't have any brakes and can't stop. At least if I'm in the front on my own and they're, a good few hundred feet behind me, I'm really not putting them in any danger because if I can't stop, well, it's just me that has the issue. So we get up over this hill and we are putting down a ton of power previously to get up this thing. I'm trying to settle into a pace that I know I can hold because we've got a few miles yet till the finish. So we get up to the top and then there's a big downhill, and again, no brakes. Why I'm leaving this particular clip in here is because there's a major hole, I hit it, and my chain comes off. So right here I've got 0 watts, doing 25 miles an hour just because I smoked a big hole, and I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna get my chain back on. So I actually just shifted into my smallest cog, and it sucked the chain back over. I was able to get back in gear and continue on my solo effort. And the group is behind me this whole time, and not very far back. So I still want to stay in front of them because I can't stop. I don't want to be right behind them. So I'd rather be in front. Another good hill. My drivetrain is making some terrible noises. It is crunching, and I'm really worried that the chain might just fail at some point. But we're still putting in the effort. We're still going to go. We're this close to the end. If I have to, I'll walk the bike there. And here comes the rider that I mentioned earlier, the blue and black kit on the red bike. He is coming up past me. And when I thought back on this part, I thought, man, why didn't I just stay with him? Why didn't I just try to go with him when he went? And I actually do. I mean, right here, I'm upping to about 500 watts, and he's riding away from me. So it's not like I didn't try to stay with him and get on his wheel for the finish. It's just that he was stronger. So he rides away. The group behind me doesn't catch me, and we were just coming into the finishing straight here. When I saw the pavement, I knew I was good. I was going to finish in this position, but I still wanted to finish strong. I always want to come into the finish on the power. I see the arch, so I know we're getting really close. And there we come, across the line.
Now that was a gravel race. Holy crap, that was awesome. That was like, that's kind of what I thought gravel racing would be. And I've been surprised that it's been so fast and flat. That was gnarly. That was crazy.
It was fun though. You have a smile on your face.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was absolutely awesome. The like 5 miles out, everyone went straight, and the course was left, so they had to turn around. So I just went, and the guy that beat me at the cow pie actually came around me, and I couldn't catch up to him. But him and I pretty much just ended up going away from the group. I was pretty hyped up after the race because it felt like I really completed a gravel race. Myself and everyone around me is covered in mud, our bikes are trashed, and that felt kind of cool. That feeling did dissipate once I actually looked at my equipment, my power pedals, GoPro, Garmin, and my entire drivetrain. They all need to be replaced. This race was also the finale for the MGRS, so I was knocked down into 4th for the under 29 category for the short course series, and then 23rd for the overall short course series. This meant that I wouldn't be on the podium this year, but hey, there's always next year.